The 1970s, a decade of bell-bottoms, disco, and iconic TV shows, also left a lasting impression on our taste buds. From retro-inspired dishes to culinary trends that defined the era, the 70s gave us a plethora of unforgettable meals. Let's take a nostalgic journey back in time and rediscover 10 famous dinners from the 1970s we want back. Number 10. Beef Wellington. A beef Wellington in the 1970s was a sight to behold. The tender, rare beef fillet was encased in a rich, savory pate and then wrapped in a flaky puff pastry. The crust, golden brown and buttery, was a perfect vessel for the juicy, flavorful meat within. This culinary masterpiece was often served with a side of creamed spinach and a generous dollop of red currant jelly. Dining on a beef Wellington in the 1970s was an elegant affair. It was a dish that evoked a sense of luxury and sophistication. The combination of textures and flavors was simply divine. The tender beef, the creamy pate, and the flaky pastry created a symphony of taste that lingered long after the last bite. Number 9. Tuna Noodle Casserole. The 1970s, a decade of bell-bottoms, disco, and a certain retro charm, was also a time of culinary experimentation. One dish that epitomized this era was the humble tuna noodle casserole. This comfort food classic was a staple on dinner tables across America, offering a hearty, cheesy, and surprisingly satisfying meal. Imagine a bubbling casserole dish, its golden brown top speckled with breadcrumbs. Beneath lies a creamy, cheesy sauce, intertwining with tender noodles and chunks of tuna. The aroma, a delightful blend of savory and sweet, fills the air, drawing everyone to the table. Each bite is a nostalgic journey, taking you back to simpler times of family gatherings and shared meals. The tuna noodle casserole was more than just a dish, it was a symbol of the 1970s, a time when comfort food reigned supreme. Number 8. Beef Stroganoff. Imagine a cozy, wood-paneled dining room dimly lit by a vintage chandelier. The air is thick with the tantalizing aroma of simmering beef and rich, creamy sauce. On the table, a steaming platter of beef stroganoff takes center stage. Tender, juicy strips of beef are nestled in a velvety mushroom-laden sauce, served alongside a mound of egg noodles. A sprinkle of fresh parsley adds a pop of color and a hint of herbaceous flavor. As you twirl a forkful of noodles coated in the rich sauce, you're transported back to the 1970s, a time of retro charm and hearty, comforting cuisine. Number 7. Veal Oscar. The veal Oscar dinner was a prime example of this era's culinary flair. Imagine a tender veal cutlet, pan-seared to a golden brown, topped with a creamy, buttery lobster sauce. The sauce, rich and decadent, was often infused with a hint of lemon and tarragon for a touch of brightness. The dish was then adorned with a trio of plump, perfectly cooked asparagus spears, each one glistening with a delicate hollandaise sauce. The veal Oscar was typically served with a side of buttery mashed potatoes, creamy spinach, or a crisp salad. The entire ensemble was a symphony of flavors and textures, a testament to the culinary artistry of the time. Dining on a veal Oscar in the 1970s was more than just a meal, it was an experience, a taste of luxury in a bygone era. Number 6. Chicken à la king. Imagine a cozy, wood-paneled dining room bathed in the warm glow of a vintage chandelier. The air is filled with the comforting aroma of butter, cream, and a hint of curry. At the center of the table sits a steaming casserole brimming with a rich, creamy sauce. Nestled within are tender pieces of chicken, diced vegetables, and a touch of pimento for a splash of color. Chicken à la king was a staple of 1970s cuisine, a dish that epitomized comfort food. Served alongside fluffy mashed potatoes or a bed of buttery rice, it was a hearty and satisfying meal. The creamy sauce, often made with a roux and heavy cream, was the star of the show, its velvety texture and subtle spice making it irresistible. The addition of vegetables like mushrooms and green peppers added a delightful crunch and a burst of flavor. Number 5. Chicken Cordon Bleu. One dish that epitomized the era's love for indulgence and flair was chicken cordon bleu. This culinary masterpiece, a symphony of flavors and textures, was a staple on upscale restaurant menus. Imagine a crispy, golden brown crust enveloping a tender chicken breast. Inside, a delectable duo of ham and cheese melded together, creating a gooey, savory center. The dish was often served with a side of creamy bechamel sauce, its rich, velvety texture complementing the savory filling. As a nod to the decade's penchant for all things retro, chicken cordon bleu was often served with a side of asparagus spears, a vegetable that was gaining popularity in American cuisine. The combination of the savory chicken, creamy sauce, and slightly bitter asparagus created a well-balanced and satisfying meal. Number 4. Stuffed peppers. Imagine a cozy kitchen filled with the comforting aroma of simmering tomato sauce and herbs. On the stovetop, a vibrant array of stuffed peppers sizzles in a cast-iron skillet. These iconic 1970s dishes were a staple of family dinners, offering a hearty and wholesome meal. Each pepper, a plump bell pepper, was carefully hollowed out and filled with a flavorful mixture of ground beef, rice, and breadcrumbs. Seasoned with a blend of savory spices like oregano, basil, and parsley, the filling was a symphony of flavors. The peppers were then nestled in a rich tomato sauce, simmered until the sauce thickened and the peppers were tender. Served alongside a side of fluffy mashed potatoes and a crisp salad, these stuffed peppers were a comforting and satisfying meal that evoked nostalgia for simpler times. Number 3. The liver and onions. Dinner in the 1970s meant hearty, wholesome meals, and few dishes were as comforting as liver and onions. A slab of beef liver seared to a rich mahogany brown was nestled amidst a bed of caramelized onions. The sweet, savory aroma filled the kitchen, promising a satisfying meal. The liver, tender and juicy, was a perfect foil for the slightly bitter onions. A sprinkle of pepper and a dollop of homemade gravy completed the dish. Served with a side of mashed potatoes and a steaming mug of tea, it was a classic 70s supper that evoked memories of family gatherings and simpler times. Number 2. Eggplant Parmesan. Imagine a dimly lit, cozy diner in the 1970s. The air is thick with the aroma of simmering tomato sauce, melted mozzarella, and the comforting scent of eggplant. A plate of eggplant parmesan arrives, a towering masterpiece of layered eggplant sauce and cheese. The eggplant slices are thick and tender, coated in a light, crispy breadcrumb crust. Each bite reveals a symphony of flavors: the tangy tomato sauce, the creamy mozzarella, and the subtle sweetness of the eggplant. As you savor this classic dish, you're transported back to a simpler time, when meals were shared with loved ones and every bite was a moment of pure indulgence. Number 1. Chicken divan. Chicken divan, a culinary classic of the 1970s, was a dish that epitomized the era's love for creamy, cheesy comfort food. This retro recipe typically featured a bed of fluffy white rice topped with tender chicken smothered in a rich, creamy sauce made with cheese, mushrooms, and often a touch of curry powder. The dish was then baked until bubbly and golden brown, sometimes garnished with pimento strips for a splash of color. Chicken divan was a staple on many American dinner tables during the 1970s. Its creamy, cheesy flavor and comforting presentation made it a popular choice for family meals and special occasions. While the dish may seem dated by today's culinary standards, it remains a nostalgic reminder of simpler times and the enduring appeal of classic comfort food. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel to reminisce the vintage nostalgia.